Hey guys, this is another video. If you haven't read the title, wherever it is on YouTube, down there, up there, left, right, up, down, I'm doing a little snippet review of Moon Knight, the series on Disney Plus. The limited series, apparently, it's not going to get a second season from what I've heard. That probably going to lead up into the Midnight Suns or something. We will see, but this is a series that myself, being a fan of the Midnight Suns and the just all the dark and cringy parts of Marvel, like Blade and Ghost Rider, Werewolf by Night, those characters. As a child, I read the Moon Knight, not Moon. Well, Moon Knight I didn't read till I was a teenager, but I read Blade as a child, and I have to thank a friend of mine. His name's Kevin. I have two friends named Kevin, and the younger Kevin, I guess, is the one I'm talking about. You don't really need to know that, but he introduced me to Blade as a child, very young, right when the first Blade movie came out. He introduced me to Blade. I read comic books. I just didn't read that side of comics. I read Batman, X-Men, Spider-Man, Justice League, Etrigan the Demon. Those were kind of the ones I was reading at that time, and then obviously I branched out slowly. But he introduced me to Blade, which in turn led me into Moon Knight and other things in Marvel like the Werewolf by Night series and the Midnight Suns later on. When I finally got into that, and a lot of the horror aspects of this group, the Midnight Suns, and characters like Doctor Strange, stuff like that, and mystical and darker side like Morbius, the Living Vampire, which I have not seen that movie yet. I will. Just because I need to. And on that side of Marvel and DC, I started getting into Etrigan the Demon before this, but I also like Zatanna. Swamp Thing was around, and then all of a sudden, I was probably about 15, maybe 14, 15 years old when I started reading Moon Knight, and roughly, I guess I would say roughly around that time. And it was cool. Just this Marvel's people say he's Marvel Batman, but yes and no. He has multiple personalities. One of them is a playboy, much like Tony Stark, Bruce Wayne style personality. The Stephen Grant, I think, is the Stephen Grant is the playboy, I believe, in the comic books, if I remember correctly, and Mark Spector is the main personality and the mercenary, and then you have a couple others that got thrown in there as time goes on, like Jake Lockley, and a few others. Things that went crazy, and he had different personalities and different suits and things like that, and he had the inner conscience and all that stuff. A lot of crazy, cool things about Moon Knight that I learned over the years. But I fell off Moon Knight up until the Civil War era for a little bit, and when Civil War came back, that's when Dagon, Wolverine's son, came into play, and Moon Knight shows up in the Dagon story in some places, as well as X-23, blah blah blah. That's not what this is about. It's just Moon Knight. I left, came back, and never thought he would get a show because that wasn't something Marvel was keen on doing, especially since we lost a Netflix series a while ago, and we didn't think we were going to get Blade or Ghost Rider or any of those kind of characters. And then slowly Phase 4 started coming when they announced Blade. I was like, oh shit, we're getting Blade. Will we get the Werewolf by Night? Will we get the Ghost Rider, since they had gotten the rights to Ghost Rider again, and all that stuff. And it was really cool seeing the slowly acquisitions of those characters come back, and them might be doing stuff with it. And Blade was the first one they were kicking off, and with Mahershala Ali, who was in Luke Cage. Great casting, great actor. Mahershala Ali for Blade. Blade's great, and the Midnight Suns were great. And then when this show got announced, I was like, oh shit, they have to get a pretty good, damn good person to get as Moon Knight, right? And when they announced Oscar Isaac, I was like, interesting pick, because the main thing I watched Oscar Isaac in was Star Wars. I know he's an Ex Machina, which I did watch, a little bit in X-Men Apocalypse. What did he play in X-Men Apocalypse? Who was he in X-Men Apocalypse? Was he Apocalypse? Or who was he? Who was he? That's a good question. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Sorry. I think he was Apocalypse, right? Wasn't he? Doesn't really matter that much. But I think Star Wars, he did decent enough. He just didn't get a good shot, and they didn't show him off that much as Poe Dameron. I wish they would do a Disney Plus series for Poe Dameron to get a little bit more of that character. And I know Finn, most of those characters might not even come back in the live action series again. And the whole history of what happened on the series of films is pretty sad. And I love Star Wars. Star Wars is great. And I actually went to the premiere of Revenge of the Sith the day it came out, and the prequels, and I also got to see the day it came out, Force Awakens and Last Jedi, I believe we saw, and when we saw Rise of Skywalker, I think a couple days after, me and Mark, the other guy on the channel. But he's a great actor. He's fun. I didn't know if because he never showed off that ability of being able to do Moon Knight to me, unless the only thing I really could say, then maybe Ex Machina, his acting in Ex Machina, or whatever it's called, Machina. That's the only one where you see his acting chops a little bit better. But this show really gives you another side look at the character of Moon Knight and the actor playing him, Oscar Isaac, and it shows off the gods of the Marvel Universe. So, and for anybody watching this far into the video, 6 minutes, it's gonna be a little bit longer video maybe. But this video is gonna have spoilers. Spoiler alert! There's gonna be spoilers in this, which you shouldn't be surprised. I'm gonna probably put it in the title. But the show starts off, first episode, Stephen Grant. It's kind of a boring first episode. It's just kind of establishing what is where he's at and who it is. The Stephen Grant persona being the main one at the beginning of the show, or at least the one that we have perceived. As the audience, we get to perceive, and we slowly get to see, oh shit, there's more than one. He's starting to figure out there's more than one personality there, and he falls in and out of sleep, which is cool. It's a cool establishing of the character. I just don't think the first episode really... This is where people would have fallen off the show, is the first 2 episodes. If you didn't like the character already, if you didn't grasp onto it, you're not going to like the show, and it's unfortunate, because episodes 5 and 6 are beautiful. The last 2 episodes of the season are just beautiful episodes. The rest of the season can be skipped mostly. It's mostly just like, you could definitely explain the plot and then watch episodes 5 and 6, in my opinion, or 4, 5, and 6. The later half of the season is definitely the better, 4, 5, and 6. But it's good. It's a good show. The first episode really establishes what he is able to do. You get to see the suit for the first time, at least a little bit. And you get to learn the Egyptian part slowly. Going into episode 2, it builds upon that. The villain, Harrow, who's played by Ethan Hawke, which you do figure that out in the first episode as well. Ethan Hawke is just a big name for the series, and I think it was a great idea to pull him in into the show. I mean, I could go in and try to tell you all the things Ethan Hawke's done. You've seen him in tons of things, but this guy is the guy who can meld into a role, but you still know it's Ethan Hawke at the end of the day. He's so recognizable, but he takes the role seriously, I think. I don't think he's the best villain, but he plays the role in a great way, and he's not the worst villain. He's probably average. An average villain. Marvel has a lot of average villains, which is unfortunate, but I think if they would have gone full psychotic, they did go pretty psychotic into the mind of Moon Knight, but if they would have made the villain also go into the psyche of Moon Knight more, he would have been great. But I think he was a great name to attach to the project, like Oscar Isaac and him. I think those two were great people to pull in onto the project so people can look at it, and then they put a bunch of people who are smaller actors in various roles of color, people of Middle Eastern, Egyptian descent, and introducing that, what is for Moon Knight, the background, the history, the culture of the characters, which is very important. The gods and people of the descent of the Egyptians is really cool and really smart, at least in a Moon Knight beginning show and where it is taking place. I think it was a great idea. But having these two guys attached to the project is smart for marketing. And even if the villain is lackluster, I think the overall story is good and fun. But getting into like the later middle of the season, that's where you start to see the cool fights with the suit and stuff. And then really the third, fourth episode are just kind of like, okay, we know what we're doing. Like it's just like you're along for the ride, and then some. Like it's like a goose chase, essentially, and with a little bit here and there of the absolutely best parts of the show is the mind of Spectre and Mark, and just them switching back and forth, and Oscar Isaac be able to do it on a dime and doing it well, and changing his movements, his facial structures, not his structure, but like the way his face would be sitting during switching back and forth, and I think that is underrated. And people do look over what he's able to do as Moon Knight so far in the show, and it's unfortunate that the first couple episodes are not as hard-hitting and grasping for Marvel, but the last three, especially the last two, episodes 5 is my favorite. I think it's just great, and I think I'm going to go into another character, actor. I'm not going to go into many more, but the person who plays Layla, I'm going to probably pronounce her name Kalamawe. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but May. She plays Layla, and that's a character who's a hodgepodge of multiple Moon Knight loving hodgepodge of characters, like I was saying, with multiple different characters from Moon Knight. I can say, but Emergency Awesome did a really great video on his, which is probably much shorter than mine. Go watch Emergency Awesome. But she's a hodgepodge of multiple characters from Moon Knight, but she plays Scarlet Scare, which is 2 Scarlets this week from Marvel. We're going to get Scarlet Witch, which in Multiverse Madness, and apparently much of my friends who saw it today, Thursday, that it's an amazing film, and I can't wait to go see that this Saturday after our stream is over, our live stream, our 24-hour live stream, which I will throw something up, but that doesn't matter, especially once the stream's over. But I do think that her playing the Scarab is a really good choice. I think being a new actress, I haven't seen her in anything before except for Moon Knight, and putting an Egyptian female, Middle Eastern Egyptian female, I guess is like what she is from one of her IMDb and her other pages classify her as. She was great. She was fun. She didn't get a lot to do, but I think she was just there as a catalyst force to help the story and to prepare off another colored female hero into the MCU, at least potentially, even though she becomes so Mark is an avatar of Khonshu. She becomes the avatar of Taweret later in the season as well, and it's just great. And then the way they did the backstory of Mark in the later half of the season is great. I think you don't know if he's a good or bad guy, and he doesn't see himself as a good guy, but he definitely is revealed not to be a terrible guy, that he tried to help people and he failed. And that's also very interesting. And the idea that Stephen Grant is the way they did the Stephen Grant persona in the show, I think is better than the Playboy style, and just like this is like DID. The show is very much like a love letter to DID in some ways. Not perfectly, because it's not beautiful. It's not a direct representation, but it is very beautifully done, and the way his trauma manifests in the show. And I think that even though the show is different in the way they decided to use Mark and Moon Knight and Stephen Grant and everybody, I think it's a great way to tell it in the Marvel Universe and Marvel MCU, and I think they did a service to the character in the later half of the season that they didn't really do at the beginning of the half of the season. Which I'm looking forward to see where we're going to see Moon Knight next. But once you get to episode 5, it's the most beautiful episode of the trauma, the creation of Stephen Grant, the personality, and just the discovery and the delivering of acting on Oscar Isaac's part in episode 5 is just beautiful. And I never thought Moon Knight was going to be that. Because Marvel doesn't always do it, but they can. And when Marvel does hit you over the head with like the feelings and the acting, it hits you, because most of it's like, okay, this is like this is normal Marvel, and then it hits you and you're like, okay, this is cool. And now episode 5, man, that was the episode to watch. I mean, episode 3, 4, 5, and 6 are just beautiful together as a story, but the whole story is really fun. Episode 5 is just a ride, and it sets up episode 6 in such a beautiful way that I would like you, if he doesn't win an award for that episode 5, some kind of award for episode 5, I'll be surprised with like in the acting of his mother in the show. It's just because you don't see her in the comics much at all, but in the show they give her a whole lot more, and it's just perfect. And those are the episodes I really want people to watch, is like acting. And I went to school in film for a little bit. I took a history film class. I took another film class in high school, and in college I took a couple art classes, and I did funny YouTube videos, and I was in forums and things like that for film, and I'm generally a lover of film, so seeing the acting of that episode 5 is really, really good, and as a fan, that's really great. I think if you want to be an actor, and I want to see a guy act with himself, and the way he's able to make, and the way Marvel's able to direct, the director of episode 5 is just beautifully done series. In episode 6, it just goes balls on the wall. This is a Marvel movie. Feeling in episode 6 of like the battle, and it's kind of dumb and easy, and it ends really barely an inconvenience, like in those videos, I forgot what they're called, the pitch meetings. There you go, that guy on YouTube. It's very true to the Marvel. It's almost barely an inconvenience to defeat villains, really. But I think like the idea of it is really great, and the possibilities to this current Marvel universe moving forward is going to be interesting. From and like getting to the other worlds and learning of the gods and how strong they might be is really cool. But I think like going from that, I think the show is really great. I think it's a solid 8 out of 10 for a show. Compared to the overall MCU, I would give it like a 7, like a good 7. I would watch the last 3 episodes again for sure. And I don't think it's not really bigly connected to anything, so that's a great part of that. So if you're worried that it's going to be highly connected, it really isn't that much connected. There's not a lot of references in the show. It's very much been its first stand by itself story we've had in a long time. It's not connected too much at the moment. I think that is very important for the show to exist outside of everything, because we don't need that tease of the universe for Moon Knight. And I know we're going to get Moon Knight again, but we have a story conclude, and the goddess that Ethan Hawke's character is worshipping gets trapped in his body, and they were going to get killed, and Stephen Grant and Mark both turned down Khonshu and said, no, I'm not going to kill this man. If you want to do it yourself. Release me. And Khonshu releases him as Moon Knight. So that's interesting. And eventually, throughout the show, they teased Lockley, the third persona or mind within Moon Knight, Mark Spector. And we never got to see it. I think, oh, they're not going to use the third one. There's just going to be a reference because it's kind of easier to follow just the two personalities throughout the show, and I think that's strategical on purpose. And then we get to the end, and Khonshu frees them or whatever, and I don't know if Layla's still going to be Scarab, but anyway, eventually Khonshu's in a limo, they break Ethan Hawke out of jail, his character, Harrow, out of jail, which is also the god trapped in his body. And then Khonshu's talking to him, and he's in a really nice suit, which is weird, limo, and they have this talk, which is this last scene is really cool. And he goes, "Hell yeah! By the way, yeah, my followers, whatever, blah blah blah. But have you met Jake Lockley?" And the window rolls down, and it's Oscar Isaacs as Jake Lockley with the hat and everything. And he turns on and kills him, kills Harrow. So that's really fucking fun, and that's where it ends off. Like that's the end credits, and it's like where is this gonna go next? Where are we gonna see Moon Knight again? Are we gonna see Moon Knight and Khonshu again? I think we are. I think it's bound to happen with Blade, because you have Black Knight, you have Blade, you have Moon Knight. We're getting a Werewolf by Night, I think, animated thing or whatever, film special. So, and then we don't know what's happening with Ghost Rider at this time, but I'm assuming we will see him soon too. That just makes you wonder. But I do give this 8 as a show. It's not my favorite show, but has one of my favorite scenes in the show, or my favorite episodes of the Disney Plus shows. Out of all the Disney Plus shows, episode 5 of Moon Knight is my favorite out of Cena of all the shows. Disney Plus, besides the Netflix shows. If you're going to count the Netflix shows, and Daredevil kind of takes that, and Punisher does take it with his as well. But if you count just Disney Plus made shows, I think episode 5 of Moon Knight is probably the hands down the bestly acting and written episode out of all the shows. And all the shows are really good. I do enjoy episodes of WandaVision, where she just absolutely loses her shit, and the Agatha All-Along thing, but nothing steps up to me like Moon Knight's episode 5. And just the fact that we're getting so much more shows and series and everything, that's going to be important. And I'm excited that this show doesn't connect very big when we have Multiverse of Madness coming, and we have Thor: Love and Thunder. But this show also makes me wonder the gods, if we might start seeing some of these gods through Thor, because he's going to start killing the gods, and I think in his movie, and we're going to have Jane Foster Thor, or Lady Thor, in that movie, and hopefully we'll see Beta Ray at some point. We know we're going to have Korg, and all that. Like it's limitless, but I'm hoping we get the Midnight Suns, and maybe Moon Knight is either an end credit scene or appears in Blade. Or if we just confirm Midnight Suns, which is possible after Blade comes out. I think they might do that. But what did you think? This is a long episode, I'm sorry. Especially since I have to stream tomorrow. But where do you think this is going to go? Where do you think Moon Knight's going to go? I think it's going to go somewhere pretty cool. It's just a matter of when and who and where. But let me know what you think. What do you rate Moon Knight? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What do you rate it from 1 to 10? I do. It's just, you get solid 8 out of the shows, and a 7 if you compare it to the overall MCU. It's definitely not the S or A or B tier. It's probably like a C tier series, but if you were to rank it through the movies, but I think it's a great story and a great standalone, and it's one of the only standalone stories that don't connect to anything at all that we've had in a long time, but I think it's important, and it's going to be interesting. Moon Knight, check it out. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, especially if you watch the first episode. If you don't like the first episode, skip to episode 4, 5, and 6. I think that might change some hype about it, but let me know what you think. Like the video, like it. If you don't like it, I wish you could thumbs it down. YouTube took that away, so just thumbs down in the comments. Make a giant thumb thing. I don't know. You could probably use an emoji or some shit. Or I know people do like the letters and make some giant things. Do that. And if you don't give a fuck, flip me off in the comments below. I'll see you in the next episode, as well as streaming tomorrow on the 6th of May, 2022. Gonna be crazy. More videos coming soon. I bought myself a capture card, so me and Mark both have a capture card. I just need a mic, a decent enough mic for streaming or for recording Let's Plays. Some more content. I'll see you.